The European Union has voiced concerns over media freedom in China. This is after a British and an Irish journalist were forced to leave the country last month. The BBC's China correspondent John Sudworth and his wife left China for Taiwan last week. His wife Yvonne Murray is the China correspondent for Irish broadcaster RTE. In a Friday statement, an EU spokesperson for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy said the EU calls upon China to abide by its obligations under national and international law and ensure the freedom of speech and press. And in other news, there's been much attention lately on China's Xinjiang region over concerns about forced labor and human rights abuses. But a new book suggests forced labor in China is a widespread issue and not limited to Xinjiang. NTD's Chang Chun has more.
A book is bringing a face to forced labor victims in China. U.S.-based Chinese journalist Amelia Pang published her book titled Made in China earlier this year. It's about a Chinese prisoner, an SOS letter, and the hidden cost of America's thirst for cheap goods. The book spotlights a prisoner of conscience, Sun Yi. He was detained at the Masanja labor camp in China's northeast Liaoning province, all because he refused to give up his beliefs. He practices Falun Gong, a spiritual meditation system that teaches the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. It's been brutally persecuted in China since 1999. Inside the labor camp, Sun was forced to create products out of raw material by hand. One of the products required kneading a type of fibrous cardboard to soften it. The material was used to make decorative paper mushrooms. The products were exported to Europe. Not long after Sun began to work, his hands were rubbed raw by the kneading, and his wounds soon became infected. Workers in the camp were given daily quotas to fill. Most days, Sun says he could only sleep around 2 to 4 hours a day in order to create enough products to fill his quota. He recounts being so stressed that he even dreamed of making the paper mushrooms. Eventually, Sun secretly started sneaking handwritten notes into boxes of Halloween decorations he packaged. In 2012, an Oregon woman found one of his notes in a box of foam gravestones. The resulting media reports led to widespread accusation over China's labor practices. Zhang Jing was also detained in the same labor camp. She says she endured a similar experience.
The raw materials used to make handcrafts were all made from cardboard. We had to knead it into paper as soft as tissue. Then we made them into flowers using glue. That glue is very toxic. I rubbed the cardboard into paper petals with my hands every day. Basically, my hands couldn't hold even chopsticks when eating anymore. The skin on my fingers was destroyed by the glue.
Zhang also practices Falun Gong and is from China's northeastern city of Dalian. Zhang now lives in the U.S. She says even now, whenever she sees peeled garlic in the supermarket, her fears and memories from inside the camp rush back to her mind.
I don't want to buy it because when I was detained in Masanja labor camp, I was forced to peel garlic. I had to peel several sacks of garlic every day.
Another Falun Gong practitioner named Yu Ming was an entrepreneur in China. Because of Beijing's persecution of Falun Gong, he spent nearly 12 years in Chinese prisons and labor camps. He says slave laborers ranged from 16 to 70 years old. All of them were forced to work at least 12 hours a day.
When there was too much work to do, prisoners were forced to work 24 hours, even 48 hours. Some prisoners were forced to sleep on the concrete floor or at their workstation.
Yu said every prison, every labor camp, and every detention center in China has been transformed into a factory using forced labor, adding that every prisoner is now considered a cash cow, though many of them fall ill or die.
The authorities do not check the prisoners' health at all. Even AIDS patients, prisoners with various liver diseases, or when prisoners catch a cold or run a fever, they still have to work on the assembly line.
In Masanja labor camp, Sun was often shackled by his hands and feet. At one point, he began a hunger strike to protest the abuse. But in response, he was force-fed through his nose. His mouth also was propped open by a metal gag, and hot sauce was poured into his eyes. In 2019, Pang went undercover as a businesswoman and visited a drug rehabilitation center in Shanghai. She observed trucks there coming and going once every 2 hours, seemingly transporting goods out of the facility. Pang says her investigation revealed an important point. Foreign companies are able to investigate whether their partner companies in China are involved in forced labor, but instead they turn a blind eye to suit their personal interests. Chang Chun, NTD News.
As Brits look ahead to outdoor activities opening in a week, there's already good news for theme park lovers in California. After a year of closed doors, some iconic attractions are back in action. Visitors are welcome starting this month, but with some restrictions.
Theme parks in Southern California began reopening Thursday after almost a year-long closure. Six Flags Magic Mountain, 30 miles north of Los Angeles, was one of the first to open its doors. There, excited daredevils lined up, eager for the thrill of the rides.
You know, it's pretty good. I've been missing this place for 13 months. It's nice to be, I'm a big theme park fan, so it's nice to be able to go ahead and, ride some rides again, even just walk around. It's pretty nice.
California health officials have allowed theme and amusement parks to restart operations on April 1st with severely limited capacity. But that's only if the counties where they operate are removed from the most stringent purple tier, part of California's color-coded pandemic classification system.
It feels pretty good. It's nice to actually be out again and feel somewhat normal, even though, got the precautions and running every other train or things like that. It takes a little getting used to, but better than being stuck at home, that's for sure.
Masks and other safety measures are still required, and the parks will initially only open to state residents. Attendance would range from 15% to 35% of normal capacity.
So we are contactless from the point where you get your temperature checked, contactless through the security screening. We have plexi barriers up at our ticket booths. On the coasters, we are skipping every other row. Only groups who are allowed to be together will ride together.
In the coastal community of Carlsbad, south of Los Angeles, Legoland also opened its doors on Thursday after months spent closed. Other theme parks scheduled to reopen in Southern California include Universal Studios on April 16th and Disneyland on April 30th.
Now staying in the Golden State, wildfires devastated the west coast of the United States last year. As California enters spring season, the state is starting to make preparations. Here's more from NTD's David Lam.
California currently has sunny weather with springtime flowers blooming. However, there's been a lack of rain. This reservoir used to be filled with water, but now it's like a crater in the earth. As you can see, people can reach the bottom of the reservoir.
We are not in a drought formally, but we are experiencing drought conditions.
According to the Department of Water Resources, California's rainfall is below 50% of average, tying 2021 to the third driest year on record.
With below average precipitation statewide, California's reservoirs continue to show the impacts due to dry conditions.
The department measured statewide snow levels of 16.5 inches or 59% of average. One of the snow surveys was conducted on April 1st near the mountains.
But I'm also mindful of the looming challenges ahead as we now enter again into fire season, if we've even left it.
Newsom announced a plan earlier this week to use emergency funds of $80 million to hire 1,400 firefighters, and there's more preparation.
We have in front of the legislature a proposal for $1 billion to address vegetation and forest management, to get these new C-130s, to get the new Black Hawk helicopters out and operational, to pre-position assets, to get wildfire cameras, infrared technology to bear. We have now invested more money in the last few years than in any time in our history.
California reported nearly 10,000 fires in 2020, burning over 4 million acres of land. David Lam, NTD News, California.
The private information of more than 500 million Facebook users may have been compromised, and an unidentified leaker says they are offering the data for sale for virtually nothing. Alon Gal, the co-founder of an Israeli cybersecurity firm called Hudson Rock, says that the information appears to be the same set of Facebook-linked telephone numbers that's been circulating in hacker circles since January. It's being sold for a few dollars worth of digital credits on a well-known site for low-level hackers. Reuters hasn't been able to verify the information, but Gao and some journalists who have seen the data dump say they've been able to match phone numbers of people they know. He warns that Facebook users should be on the lookout for possible social engineering attacks in the coming months. In a statement, Facebook said the data was very old and related to an issue it had fixed in August 2019. An attempt by Reuters to reach the leaker over the messaging service Telegram was not immediately successful.
This next story might make you a little jealous. American company LinkedIn is giving its almost entire staff 1 week off. For the whole week starting Monday, and they still get paid. LinkedIn wants its workers to use the time to unplug and recharge. The idea is to prevent burnout. Also, since almost everyone has the same week off, they won't have to dig through accumulated emails after the holiday. It's for most of LinkedIn's nearly 16,000 full-time workers all around the world. A core team of employers will continue to work this week, but they'll be able to schedule time off later. And in other news, a 21-year-old British free climber scaled one of Europe's highest skyscrapers in Barcelona without any ropes or safety measures.
George King took his life in his hands again as he made his way to the top of the Meliá Barcelona Sky Hotel, a seemingly impossible feat done without harness, not one for those without a head for heights. And this is not his first stunt. He free climbed the Shard in London in 2019. That feat earned him 6 months in the Young Offenders Centre for breaching a civil injunction taken out by the owners of the building. After a 20-minute climb, he reached the top of the 116-metre-high building. The applause from spectators below, a likely mix of amazement and belief. But the glory was short-lived. King was arrested by police on the way down. He's now facing a fine for climbing the building without permission. Free climber King is from Oxford but currently travelling around Europe. He also climbed the 144-metre Agbar Tower skyscraper in Barcelona before Christmas.
That's the news for today, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Stuart Lees.